Today we're making baby octopus. Octopi? Octopus. Baby octopi. And so for these guys, we are going to be doing bobble stitch. And so I'll walk you through the bobble stitch, but I do have a full tutorial that I will link down below. But let's go ahead and get started on these guys. Today I am using Premier Parfait Chunky in the color Sea Glass. I'm also going to be using size 12 eyeballs for this one as well. If you don't have size 12, you can always use whatever you have, or you could even use some black acrylic yarn to just embroider the eyes in. I'm going to be using a size 5 hook, but use whatever works for you. If you are a loose crocheter, go down a size. If you are a tight crocheter, go up a size. It really depends on your tension. I wouldn't go above a 5 for Parfait Chunky, just personally. I like to measure my yarn to the size of the shaft of the hook, so I think that's a good fit for me. So I'm working with a size 5 in this one. So we're going to start with a magic ring. And if you are new to my videos, I do my magic ring a little bit differently than others. And I do have a full tutorial that's linked down below as well. So I'm going to go in with 8 single crochets into this magic ring. So here's 1, 2, 3, and if you are working with plush yarn, you'll know that sometimes it can break when you're doing your magic ring. So I like to pull it after about 3, because you can see, look at there, it already started to fray. So I pull it a little bit more. 7 and 8. Okay, so now pull that nice and tight. Okay, and then we are going to increase in each single crochet so that we get to 18. So let me just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going into this one here. Okay. So there's 1 and 2. I'm going to add in my stitch marker so I don't get lost. Okay, so again, increase is 2 single crochets in each one. So 1, 2. So now that I finished row 1, or 2 technically, we have our magic ring and then we have our 8 increases. So you should have 16 single crochet stitches. In this next one, we're going to get up to 20 stitches. So we're just going to do 3 single crochet and then an increase. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do an increase. And now an increase is again 2 single crochet into 1 stitch. So 1, 2. Now I'm going to go 3 again. 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and an increase. And then we have our final 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to increase here. 1, 2. All right, so that got us up to 20. So we have a nice round squishy head. And now what we need to do is we need to go down. We need to get our body. So we're going to go 4 rounds with just single crochet. So I'm going to have you pause the video here, and then once you get 4 rows of single crochets, meet me back here so that we can continue on. So again, 4 rows single crochet, pause here. Okay, I've gotten to the end of round 7. It's starting to take shape. Make sure that your tail is in the center. There's the wrong side and the right side. So I always, as soon as it starts to curl, I make sure that my tail side is in the center. You kind of see, let's see. So this is a little bit more bumpy, and then this side's a little bit cleaner. At this point, we're going to start our decrease and finishing up our octopus, and then we need to decide where we want our eyes. So I'm going to start with my next row of my decrease. So to get to 20, I did 3 single crochets and then an increase. To get back down to 16, I'm going to do 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So here's my first one. Put my stitch marker in. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And a decrease is we are going to be taking 2 stitches and turning them into 1. So there are 2 pieces of your stitch here. There is a front loop. It's a little hard to see in the fluffy stuff, but there is a front loop and there is a back loop. So we're going to be working in the front loops of the next 2. So front loop here, front loop here. So we're going to be going into this one and into this one. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go front loop. And then I'm going to go into this next front loop. Sometimes I have to scoop it. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to scoop up. So if you can see here, I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over. I'm just pulling through the 2 front loops there. Yarning over and pulling through. So that is our invisible decrease there. Okay. And then again, 1, 2, 3. Going into those front loops. Front loop 1, front loop 2, 3 loops, going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, finish that single crochet. Okay, 1, 2, 3, then our decrease, front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and 1, 2, 3. And then our final decrease here, front loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Okay, so that is the end of our body. So we're going to start to close up and then work on the tentacles. So what I want to do at this point is put in my eyeballs. Okay, so originally I was going in with a size 12, but I'm wondering if I should go in with a 14, make them a little bigger. Nope, I'm going to stick with my size 12. Okay, so remember, they're called safety eyes, but if you are giving this to a child of under 3, these are not safe. So if you are giving this to someone who's younger than 3, I suggest embroidering those eyes with just an acrylic yarn. Okay, so we're going to start to finish this off. And to do that, we're going to do our final row of the body in the back loops. So just like we did with the decrease in the front loops, we're going to be doing this next row in the back loops. So we're creating this inside ring here, and then what we're going to be using those front loops for the tentacles. So you are going to need a second stitch marker for this to show you where the first front loop is. Okay, so I'm going to go in. Okay, I'm going to do my first back loop single crochet. So that's here. I grab my first back loop single crochet. I'm going to put my yellow one there. And then for my front loop here, I'm going to put in my pink stitch marker. Okay. So now I'm just doing 16 single crochets in the back loops. And you can kind of start to see how it's creating this ridge, and that is where we're going to be working our tentacles in. Okay, I'm going to fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. So about that long. Okay. So now I have my little octopus head here. I'm going to go ahead and stuff this. And what I like to do is make sure I go in with pieces of stuffing, and I stuff in, but then I start to pull it to the edges. When I'm stuffing, I want to make sure that it is filling all of the spaces and creating the cute round shape that I'm looking for. So as I'm pushing stuffing in, I'm constantly moving out towards the outside. And so I'm putting the stuffing into that center hole and continuing to shape out that way. You continue stuffing until it feels firm but not super hard. And keep going. You also don't want to put too much in to create gaps in your stitches as well. Okay, and then you just kind of do that palm test to make sure it feels right. I think that's good. So we're working in the row that we created with the back loops, and then you can see, hopefully you can see on the screen, there's this little ridge here that's going to be our tentacle row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my darning needle, my yarn needle, whatever you have. Okay, and what I like to do is an up and down movement. Take that stitch marker off. So I'm going to go through the front loops to weave the ends in here. So I've got a front loop. Okay. Then I'm going to go up through the front loop here. And again, I'm in the front loops of this last row that I created. And I'm just going up and down through those front loops around the body of the octopus. You can leave in your stitch marker so you know when you get to the end. Since I have that front loop stitch marker, I roughly know where I'm going to stop. Now, if you feel like your plush yarn is going to fray if you do this, you can do this definitely with an acrylic yarn. You do not have to use the plush. Like, this is very sheddy. It's getting close here. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. Okay, and we got our last. I think that's it. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to pull it to the best you can Notice how I'm keeping my finger in there. I'm kind of pulling it tightly and moving the plush yarn as I pull, because sometimes they do snap and shed all over the place. There we go. And then I'm going to take what's remaining and I'm going to kind of weave in and out just a little bit, just to make sure it's secure in there. And then I like to go back down and out through the top of the head, just so I know that that is nice and secure inside. And snip that off. Make sure it's not going to pop out. Okay. So there you have this cute little squishy. Now, if you did not want to continue on with the octopus and you just wanted this little squishy guy, it is a really good little stress reliever because it fits so nicely in the palm of your hand. But we are going to continue on with that round of bobble crochets. At this point, you could choose to do a different color or stick with the same color. We're going to stick with the same color on this one. So I have my starting spot. I'm going to create a slip knot. So that's going to be our first. So I chained one, so that's our starting spot. I'm going to go into the next front loop and I'm going to do my bobble. So I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go through that front loop. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull through one, yarn over, pull through two. So now I have two loops. If I was doing a double crochet, I would continue this. I would yarn over and pull through both, but because it's a bobble, I'm going to leave that unfinished like that. I'm going to go into that same exact spot 4 more times. So yarn over, through, pull, yarn over, pull through 2. So now I have 3 loops, yarn over. At the end, you're going to have 6 loops on the hook. So I'm at 4, yarn over, through the hole, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm at 5. And the last one, 2. All right, so I have 6 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull through both, or all 6 of them. Okay, so here's where it gets kind of tricky. You're going to go into the next front loop and you're going to do a slip stitch. So a slip stitch is just pushing through that front loop, yarning over, pulling through the loop, but instead of doing a single crochet, you're going to pull through that loop on your hook. Okay, so that's your first slip stitch. Okay, then you're going into the next front loop with your bobble again. So yarn over, pull through the 2, yarn over, pull through the 2, so I'm at 3. So remember, you're looking for 6 loops on your hook. There's 4. There's 5. And here's 6. Okay, so I am going to yarn over, pull through all 6, go to the next one and do a slip stitch. So through the loop, yarn over, pull through the loop and the loop on the hook. And you'll see this one is a little inverted. So you're just going to take your finger and pop it right out. Okay. Okay, you're going to continue this around until you have 8 bobble stitches. So I'll meet you at the end. Again, it is a bobble and then a slip stitch, bobble, slip stitch. Okay, so pause here. If you need to rewind and watch that again, go for it. Otherwise, I will meet you at the end. All right, we're on our last bobble here. So we need to finish off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and slip stitch into that first chain that we made that when we added our yarn. Okay, so I'm going to slip stitch into that first spot, pulling it out, making sure my bobble's popped out. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to chain one to finish off and then snip off my yarn. Okay, and at this point we should have two little tails, and I like to just secure it by doing a simple little knot. Okay, probably a double knot just to be safe. And then I'm going to take my needle again, and I'm actually going to dip this through the little octopus. And now I'm looking at my octopus and my magic ring did not close all the way. So I think I'm going to actually use this to close that up a little bit more. So let's do that together. So I'm going to go straight down into my octopus, and then I'm going to come out over here. I'm just going to now if the little hole was fine, I would have just kind of hidden it inside the body. But I'm a little worried, and I want to make sure that this hole is not going to be losing stuffing here. So I'm just going to kind of crisscross a little. The beauty of crochet is there's always little ways to fix those mistakes, close up little holes. So I'm going to go one more time just to really secure it in place, and then probably plop it down, go out the head here, and then the other guy, get that on. This lot of Parfait Chunky is really, really sheddy. Some are better than others. It's just luck of the draw of which one you're going to get. Okay, so I'm just going to shove that through. And I'm going to try to pop it out the same place that my first one went. So roughly there. The reason I'm doing it roughly in like as close to the same hole as possible is because I want to tie a little knot just for extra security there. And it kind of tucks in. Snip that off. And then make sure it's nice and tucked away. Pick off any extra shed. And there it is. I have my 8 little bobble tentacles and my squishy little octopus here. If you wanted to make this a keychain, just add it to the top there. If you want to make a little mouth, you can embroider that with some just acrylic or cotton yarn. There it is. I hope you had fun making your little squishy octopus. Make sure you subscribe. I've got some more tutorials in the works, so I would love for you to follow along and check out what's coming next. All right. Thanks for watching. Happy crocheting.